I want to talk today about one of my favorite SpongeBob episodes that it's a pretty fun story anyway, but there's an important overarching theme that I'd like to touch on. And as I said, it is going to be important. So sit back and enjoy the plot, and hopefully you'll stay tuned for the lesson at the end. The episode opens with SpongeBob and Patrick watching a jellyfish who's just sitting there, and turns out they've been watching it for several days, and then it finally decides to start swimming away. So SpongeBob and Patrick chase it down, eventually falling off of a cliff into, through a hole into an underground society, essentially. I don't even know. I don't think there was a name given for the place that they fall into, but it is a completely, as I said, different society. They land on/in an outhouse and somehow managed to not kill the guy that was in it, because there was someone that had just entered it. So they get captured naturally and are brought to, I believe, Ma Angler was her name, or at least what she was referred to, kind of like the person that oversees everything. And she's well, I guess details of her aren't too important, but as I said, they're captured and brought into the house and kind of brought before the judge in this case of like, oh yeah, they dropped down from the sky and nearly killed me, which is true. And so I suppose to keep their lives, or at least to not be, I don't know, I don't even remember what the punishment was going to be, but in order to get out of the situation, they have to complete a few challenges. Some of them including a banjo battle. This guy rolls up. Well, okay, first he runs off and grabs his banjo from under this older looking fellow, and before he throws him back into the seat, and somehow doesn't hurt him in the process, comes back and starts playing the banjo, and SpongeBob and Patrick aren't even given an instrument to play with, but fortunately, SpongeBob hatches an idea and borrows the overalls of a civilian that lives in that society. And Patrick ends up using SpongeBob as a banjo, or at least some kind of instrument. And I guess Patrick's pretty good, because he's so good and kept up with a real banjo player that the guy blew up. Like, he literally exploded into stars, SpongeBob even saying. Which I think is pretty clever. He's like, oh man, Patrick, you might have won, but he was the real star. Yeah, he died, by the way. Well, I'll just remind you, that guy died, and they're sat here making puns, and I'm sat here laughing at it, so I guess I'm just as dark as they are. But anyway, so they get, a few more challenges they got to complete, like a yodeling battle, to which they drink some corn soda, which, yeah, that sounds pretty bad. But if anyone would drink that, it'd be my sister, probably, because she likes corn. But even then, that's probably I don't know if she would stoop that low. She's catching strays, bro. Anyway, as I said, they win the yodeling match by, I guess, after they drank the soda, they had to burp or something, and they won. And then they were gonna have to do wrestling, but they said they don't wrestle. And so they did a little demonstration of what they do. Pause. And they ran into each other while they were jellyfishing, or pretending to, and the people were impressed by this, and so they decided that, yeah, we approve of these people, and now they get to be honorary trench billies, and they gave them some teeth. Oh, what do you call that? It's not wax teeth, but those little ones you put in your mouth and it looks kind of funny. Anyway, novelty teeth, as I think they were labeled. And so then they begin their way off. How do you say that? They start off on their way back to their civilization, which I don't understand how they got back up there. They fell 1,000 feet, probably more than that, down into a hole. So I don't know how they got back up to the surface, or not the surface, whatever, Bikini Bottom. But as they start to leave, the people of the Trench Billy civilization are like, nah, you can't leave. You gotta take care of our mom now. Which I don't understand. I really don't understand the like how that came to be. It's like, well, these guys succeeded in beating us in a couple things, so now they have to take care of our mom. It's a weird society. I'll just be blunt. But in any case, they're like, yeah, we have responsibilities up there, so they end up doing the old your shoes untied trick, and it did work like perfectly. It was like a Batman situation. They just look back and they were gone. I don't know how they ran that fast, but in any case, they make it back to they make it to the Krusty Krab and explain to Krabs and Squidward what had just happened. And it's a non-issue, as Krabs thought. It's like, oh yeah, well, what does that have to do with me? The fact that you guys fell into a whole new society in the ground. Like that's like a crazy thing to tell someone. He's like, what does that have to do with me? And they're like, oh, well, they followed us here. And so they're all an angry mob, like literally with the pitchforks and everything, make their way they barge into the Krusty Krab, and fortunately, Mr. Krabs thinks up a plan to take their orders, and so everyone's satisfied. Even Krabs especially satisfied with the result of Ma Angler eating like so many Krabby Patties, like literally shovels full of Krabby Patties, probably like racking up, I don't know, $1,000 per bite. But yeah, so good business for Krabs, and he's noticing that. But speaking of noticing, the 𝘚𝘵𝘰𝘯𝘨𝘦 noticed Krabs looking at their mom, I guess, or whatever she is, the overseer of everything. They're like, yeah, well, if anyone's looking at her mom like that, then that means y'all have to get hitched, as they said. And that's exactly what happens. Krabs gets married. He gets like forcefully, I don't know, dude. He gets married at the end, just hitched, as the car reads as they drive away. And I guess SpongeBob and Patrick are complicit because they're just sat there smiling and waving. It's a pretty funny ending. Now, this is a very different episode, especially given that the setting they went to, that place, I don't think it appears in any episode again, apart from maybe one of the newer seasons that I haven't seen, because SpongeBob fell off after season, I don't know, 9 probably. I can't say that with certainty, not having watched many past that, but in any case, up till season 9, I think I like it for the most part. But in any case, yeah, it's a very different episode, and I do love it, though. I really like the setting of the place that they go to, which, again, I don't know what you would call it. Trench Billy Society, I'll just call it that. The thing is, SpongeBob and Patrick started out having watched this jellyfish for 4 days. They were already in this thing for 3 or 4 days. Anyway, several days at this point. Not only did they miss the jellyfish, but then, as I said, even after that much work and time put into that project, they had a massive detour, literally falling through the ground, just like a massive, what was that? Like a flash, like when the ground just falls through? Flash, sinkhole? I don't know. But they fell through the ground, and as I said, to this different society, the Trench Billy Society, and it would have been easy for them to look at it as, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Not only are we missing out on our other, ventures we could be tending to right now, but this is like, we have no clue what's going to happen here. This could be dangerous and is dangerous, but it turned out to be quite the adventure. As I said, this is SpongeBob and Patrick probably had this story on standby for forever. When they probably would want to tell everyone they know about this. Yeah, we fell through the ground, and not only did we survive this whole thing, like we found a new society and everything, but we won the battles. The banjo battle, which, let me remind you, made someone explode, and no one batted an eye at that, which is crazy. Bro literally died, and they're like, "Oh, okay, yep, nicely done." They won that battle. They won the yodeling contest, and were able to impress the whole society. And as I said, it just turned into quite the adventure. And this touches on, I guess, it's similar to one of my previous videos. I think my most previous video in terms of perspective and how you're viewing something. it's of no utility to view any detour in your plan as, oh my goodness, this sucks. And, that's such a shame we didn't get to do what we set out to do. Of course, that's a natural response. And sometimes it's justified to be like, oh, yeah, I guess it's a shame we didn't get to do X, Y, Z. But there's a better perspective, a better outlook. We got to do this X, Y, Z, I guess. We got to do these things instead, and we got to have this adventure that we otherwise wouldn't have had a chance to partake in had things gone exactly the way we planned. It's kind of like getting everything you asked for on your Christmas list, or at least only receiving things that were specifically on your list. Of course, there's some satisfaction in, getting exactly what you wanted, but I think the greater satisfaction is in, either not having a list or getting something that wasn't on it. It was a great surprise and something, as I said, unexpected. So be open to the adventure that awaits you, even within the detours of what you had initially planned. They usually make for great stories, and life, especially a full life, it's made up of stories. And so it's certainly helped me, and I hope it will help you to view, again, deviations from your original plan as not something to, I suppose, fret over, but to be like, wow, at the end of the day, I get to recall or write down or tell someone else about this awesome story. Things that were hard to bear are sweet to remember. So the idea being, like, even with this episode, it's like we literally fell through the floor to like a different society altogether. There's no justification for expecting anyone to expect to fall through the floor and go to, as I said, a whole new society. But even with this, as I said earlier, this detour in their plan, this thing, their plans literally fell through. I guess they literally fell through. And it could be an idea of like, oh man, we wasted the whole day being down here. But it's like, well, hang on. It's a pretty awesome story you have. We fell through the floor, landed in this like porta potty, and somehow didn't kill the guy that was in it. We won at a yodeling match. We made someone blow up from doing a banjo battle, and then all the other things they did. It's like, so are you gonna? It's just like with your life. Are you gonna view these slight detours or even major detours as, wow, we missed out on this other thing? Or are you gonna say, wow, that's a blessing, I got to do that? I've been watching a channel. It's the personal channel of One Hit Rick from Ireland Boys, and he's been doing what's called Jesus 33. For 33 days, he's been doing these vlogs of the motto or the line is growing in gratitude, in gains, and in God. It's something like that, at least. And in one of his previous videos, he said a line that I think is very important, and I just love it. He says, because they went to the store and they were looking for a specific drink, but they couldn't find it, but they ended up finding a lot of fans, or even if they weren't fans, they just wanted to be in the vlog. And so he's like, well, we didn't get what we came for, but we got what we needed. And that's oftentimes the case. Looking back on life, so many times it's like, wow, I was here seemingly by chance. I don't believe it's chance, though. I believe it's God's inner working through everything. And it turned out to be, like, I can't imagine where I'd be now if I didn't do this thing, or if this seemingly unfortunate event didn't happen. Like, it all works. I always go back to it. It all works for the greater good of those who love God and are called according to his purposes. I always go back to that because I see that play out. Now, of course, it's more so looking back at life. I can't always say currently that this looks absolutely like it will be for the better, but it always is. It always is. In fact, I recently wrote in my journal I knew it must have been a while, but I looked back at the time because I write down when I start and stop just to kind of track it. I figured it had been at least an hour, probably more than that. And I looked back at the time, and it turns out I had been writing for 3 hours. This was a story that I had written And even in the journal I wrote, this is one of my favorite stories of my life now. And depending on your perspective, the story, you could view it as a loss or a sad one or unfortunate one. And perhaps there are elements, certainly there are elements of that. But again, it's one of my favorite stories. It has everything. It has rising action, the new characters, the development of the plot, the loss, disappointment, the brave protagonist, and everything in between. As I said, it's one of my favorite stories, but again, it all depends on your perspective and how you view it. So, like with this story, like with my story, like with this episode, like with everything in your own life, are you going to view a detour in plans or something seemingly or actually unfortunate as, wow, this sucks and this was a horrible day? Or are you going to view it as, this is an epic part of my story. I look forward to telling it to people, to reminiscing about as I said, the whole plot, the rising action, the characters, and how epic the whole thing was. Of course, there's nuance to this idea, for I shouldn't expect, or no one should expect, an individual to shout for joy when a tragedy occurs or something like it. And it's even biblical. It says that there is a time for mourning and a time for dancing. But in most cases, this is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. To add to that, consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds, because the testing of your faith produces perseverance. And I hope that connects well to this idea of, if you view everything as an addition to your story, whether it be tragic, terrible in some ways, but also beautiful story, then hopefully it can encourage you and help you see that there is a light, especially even in the darkest moments. Love the hand that fate deals you and play it as your own. Whether this is true or not, if you view it as true, if you view it as this event that I might have not desired, but it's happening to me nonetheless, it's been waiting to happen. That's another one, is the things that happen to you have been waiting to happen since the beginning of time. It's something to that effect. If you view life through these lenses, like I said, whether it's actually true or not, but if you think they are and you act as if they are, you'll find that you have a much more optimistic and adventurous spirit, even through trials and, as I've said, detours. Well, thank you so much for watching. I do hope that this helps you, so apply it today and wherever and whenever applicable. Check the description for some either related or referenced or simply important videos that I think you'll enjoy and get something out of. If you don't know Christ, there's no better time to begin a relationship with him than today. It says in the Word that if you confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that Jesus is Lord and that God raised him from the dead, then you will be saved. So there's no better decision you can make than that. Remember to treat others the way that you want to be treated, to love God and to love your neighbor, and therefore you will be your best self. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. As always, it's an honor.